Welcome to Moana Nui Podcast. Guest Alan Z. This is our special guest, Cree Summer.
And
And okay, so we'll set it up because I know you have a lot of things you got to do after this. I know that you know for a lot of different work on cartoons and different shows. A chance to reboot any show that you did voice acting on and reprise your role, which would have
I would probably want to play the Fox because everybody they yo fun. Then Fox is fun. I love Drawn Together. I loved its irreverence. I love that nobody was safe. In the very first episode, God was hoping to implore your whole world. So it really took irreverence to a whole new level. I love that. I'd love to play Elmyra again. In the reboot of Tiny Toons, they gave me one episode, and that hurt my feelings, I gotta be honest, because I just love that character. But the new thing is that Elmyra is harmful to animals. She's just a crazy little thing. I never thought she was full. I don't think she's teaching kids to strangle cats. If that's your proclivity, you're born with that. We ain't gonna get it from Elmyra.
right.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to pivot to another passion you have, which I read was music. And I believe you said that your real passion is music. Right?
Yes.
So I know you released 2 albums and they were sparse in like the timeline of it.
Yeah, it was a big space in the.
So I was wondering, like, one, would you consider releasing more music now? And 2, do you think, I know because you had, I'm getting issues with just different majors and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also an artist too. So
You know how it
is. This,
and you don't get any money.
yeah, no,
You work, you're like a dog, you tour for years and you get nothing.
now that there's more freedom and independent distribution, would you consider putting out more music for yourself?
I would. I lost a dear songwriting partner by the name of Greg Bell, who he died a couple years ago. And he was really the man I created the majority of my stuff with. But one of my other favorite songwriting partners, Tori Ruffin, is actually coming back to LA, and we're talking about maybe creating something again. I'd love to. It is still my first love. Yeah. It's just been the most arduous journey. Just 2 record deals and Street Fairy that I did with Lenny Kravitz. And when that was released, that was considered a bona fide flop.
Okay.
And so to have it now in 2023 become a cult classic is really lovely. But yeah, it's really hard. I guess if you're not doing something mainstream, something that's easy to define, especially being a Black woman singing rock and roll, it's just such a fucking uphill battle. But yeah, I haven't given up completely.
I mean, I feel like now is the right time because there's a resurgence of just like different creators, especially from
Yes,
art.
and everybody can hear it. And we're not dependent upon these old white dudes who can't find middle C on the piano to decide who and where we get to be seen and heard.
So what makes you gravitate towards rock and roll?
I think because my father is dead now. He took the train 7 years ago. He loved rock and roll music, but he was interesting. He's a jazz musician.
Mhm.
But he loved rock and roll music. And the very first artist that he introduced me to was Frank Zappa. And as a child, I think a child's mind, I just loved the swearing. It felt like something I wasn't supposed to be listening to. And then the older I got, I started to feel like this man is like a musical Lenny Bruce. He's hitting you so hard with this information, but then it's silly and soft and it cushions the fall. And the artistry and musicianship blew me away. I remember at about 12 years old, I had commandeered my father's collection.
That's awesome.
And he also, I think the very first concert he took me to was a double bill. It was Leon Russell and Edgar Winter and White Trash.
Mm.
And so I think my love for rock and roll is just hereditary and what I grew up around. But it's not what I solely love. I love soul music. I love rhythm and blues. I grew up on an Indian reservation. I love powwow music. I love kirtan. I love chanting. I love everything. I'll even give opera a shot every now. Not on purpose, but if I gotta stick it out, I'll give it my full attention. I don't know. Just sheep post. The sheep. I think it's shaped me completely because growing up on a reservation, well, I grew up with no running water, electricity. I lived in a house that my parents made together out of mud. I didn't go to school until I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And then I dropped out of school. Supposed to start the 10th grade, so I've got almost 6 years of formal education. It shaped me because I was a wild child. I mean, I grew up revering nature, and I grew up with a great connection to spirit and ceremony, ritual, which I think is something modern man is deeply lacking.
Right.
I don't think, no offense to anybody, but I don't think a bar mitzvah is going to show you how to be a man. A new Mercedes ain't going to cut it. And also, it's important that the whole community knows you've changed, and that is something that ceremony gives. Right? Whether you're coming into womanhood or being married, now you're a new person in the community, a married person. Whether you're a mother, you're not the same woman, now you're a mother. And those ceremonies really give you that honor, and they make everyone else around you aware that you've changed. You've gone through another evolution, and then everyone treats you accordingly. And that's what I love about reservation life.
And how have you seen it in like your career? Just like confident, just like
Yeah. I've been so lucky when I auditioned for Different World, for example, in the interview portion. After I'd auditioned doing the scene, I remember they did an interview, and then the next time I came back, the scene was Freddie, which was, and I had seen that they fashioned the character around the conversation that we had.
Yeah.
They decided to make her an activist, and that was tough.
Speaking of activism, because I know you've always preached for representation. What would you like to see in terms of what be put out in film and TV for?
I just want to see, honestly, I'd like to see so much more behind the scenes. I'd like to see more Black creatives, because that's what's going to get more representation on screen. And I'd like us to write our own stories and tell our own stories. And I'd like to see more Asian characters. I would really like to see more Indigenous characters, for the love of God. The First Nations are so invisible. And I'd like to see Aboriginal characters. And I just want to see, everybody. We've got 9,000 fucking streaming networks.
Right.
And I don't get to learn about the Aborigine. And I don't get to learn about the Eskimos and the Inuit. And I don't know about anybody. And it ain't my fault.
Going to the fact that you said we're now writing our own stories.
Yeah.
If you had the chance to write, say, like a Netflix show or something, what would your story be? And what would characters be?
I think I would probably tell my own story. I'm actually writing a book about my upbringing. And I'd like to tell the story about a brown girl growing up on an Indian reservation. You can't be more one. My mother is Black as night, and my father's white. So it was just this white dude and these two Black chicks on this Indian reservation. And it was a very unique experience. And I'd like to talk about it just to give some more diversity to how we see Black people represented. Because the problem with being underrepresented is we all become caricatured.
Absolutely.
The more diverse representation, the more honest depiction of it.
Right. Because I think if it's one side, it becomes talking
Every time.
Yeah.
Every fucking time.
Have you heard of this term called a narrative split? So it's this idea that this Asian writer talked about it in basically is when you have multiple different characters of the same race, but they represent different characters, different narratives. So that when you see them, you don't go, oh, that's a Black character. Oh, that's
I think there
you
is.
say, oh, that's a quirky one. That's the
Tell me that word again.
narrative plenitude.
Narrative plenitude. I
Like,
love that.
The different narrative. Even in
Yes.
this race, people don't see you as
Yes, because we have this thing about being the best friend.
yeah.
If there's an Asian character, there's a white character, and then you're the fucking best friend. And you spend the whole show asking the guy, are you okay? And then he tells you all about how he's feeling. And
you're
that's
just
all you're there for.
NPC.
You're
You have
just
no-
there to say, we're the white girl's best friend. And you just get to
Yeah.
ask this chick, Mindy, are you okay? And you
Right.
just do that for the whole fucking time. And also, one of my favorite jobs I ever worked on was Better Things. I became a staff writer on Better Things the last couple of years. And that was a great honor because I love writing. And I loved Better Things because Pam Adlon, who is a Jewish woman, would have her character, her main character, and she'd be surrounded by her best friends. And it would be like 4 Black chicks.
Right.
Not one, but 4, because let's face it, we run in packs. And you don't just get one. If you do, I don't know her. But it was just so nice.
Yeah.
And we all had a moment. I remember sitting with Rachel True, because she was in the cast too. we were sitting there and we were also with Judy Reyes, who's Dominican.
Right.
And we were sitting, we were like, I don't think I've ever been in a show where 3 chicks that begins with the white girl. This is fucking crazy. And we took her aside and we said, you may not know it, but you just did a big thing. It was really, it felt good. It felt, you know what? It felt real.
Yeah.
Just be honest. Just be honest.
Do you feel out this moving towards that, or do you feel like there's still a lot of work to break in terms of?
There's a lot of work. I give us credit, but we're just so far behind. We just gotta get with it. We are not reflecting what's really going on. Still, as much as we say we're woke and as much as we say we're moving forward, Reservation Dogs is just such an incredible show, and it's getting canned. That's it. 2 seats. Call it a wrap, right? And so let's go.
I know you mentioned the book. Is there any other projects you would like to disclose?
I'm not allowed to do.
That's good though.
I'm not allowed to talk about anything. I do have some exciting stuff coming.
Cool.
There's some great stuff coming up. I not only become a writer, but I was also becoming an animation director.
Oh, cool.
And there's some great stuff coming up in animation that I've been directing to. I hate this NDA because I want to be braggadocious. I want to get braggadocious. I'm not allowed to.
That's great.
Yeah. Am I a moon girl? Thank you for telling me. Because then I've done over 500 boys. And I forget what I'm until somebody tells me.
It's a slight flex down. Oh, is that on that? So many.
It is a flex. What an asshole. I'm not for the polls for asshole of the day. Trying to act like I ain't flexing. Just flexing like a motherfucker.
Yeah. So this is
Yes, thank you.
love to keep up and hear all that anything that I can't talk about.
Now I gotta go make some money. I gotta take everybody.
I just know. Book, I'm gonna keep searching.
Yes, let's go. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
Yes. Wait. That
Shit.
Whoa! Who is this? I don't know. He's glorious. He's just like you, but way better. Way better. Thank you. No, it's not a compliment. I wouldn't touch him if I were you, buddy. Yeah, I don't think I should touch him. You don't mind that, do you? Because I'm your buddy. I think he's gonna... You. He punches so hard, but yet his hands are so soft. Be strong. Okay.
Hey, my name is Alan Z.
And my name is Jay.
We have a special guest.
Adetokumboh M'Cormack.
There you go. Do you want to start off or want me to start?
Go ahead and get started. So we're here at Moana Nui Podcast, and we are an outlet that focuses on inclusion and diversity amongst Indigenous and bio. We're excited to talk with you today and ask you a couple questions and pick your brain.
So I know you've done a lot of like guest roles on TV. What would be like your top 2, top 3 favorites that you've done? And did you have any like fun on-set experiences you could share with us? Because I know you did 24 and
Yes, that's such a tough question because each role has a special place in my heart. As cliche as that sounds, I'd probably say one of my first jobs is Lost. And for me, that was always like, it was such a great experience working with Adetokumboh, who is one of the greatest actors of our generation. And what I loved about him, he was like, mediocrity is not, it's out of the question. We've got to be brilliant. He's like, we're representing Nigeria, we're representing Africa. So he really pushed me to be the best actor I could be in every single scene. In fact, sometimes the director would be like, cut. And he's, no, we can go again. Let's go again. And so we just keep going and making sure this was like the best performance that we could give.
So you mentioned your Nigerian heritage. Have you done Nollywood before? Or have you?
I've not done Nollywood before, but actually originally I'm from Sierra Leone. I have a Nigerian. No, it's a common mistake, but brief history lesson. Sierra Leoneans are my tribe, my ethnic group Creoles. We believe many of us were taken as slaves from Nigeria, specifically the Yoruba tribe. And when we went to the Americas, many of my ancestors actually fought in the Revolutionary War against the Americans on the side of the British. when they lost, unfortunately, or fortunately, it's actually a good thing because we got independence, right? Yeah. They were banished to Nova Scotia, and then from Nova Scotia went to Freetown, and we're like the founding fathers of the province of freedom, Freetown, Sierra Leone. But because we were like, how do we connect ourselves to Africa? A lot of us gave ourselves, or our parents gave us African names, specifically Yoruba names. Hence, my name's Adetokumbo. My other name's Frederick, but I have this random Irish last name, McCormack. And it was like, how did that happen? I'm like, blame slavery. You know what I mean? But my new TV series, The German King, you can find out more information about it by going to angel.com/German King. It's a crowdfunded show. It's awesome. And it's about King Rudolf Douala Mangabell, who was a Cameroonian king who was raised in Germany, who fights back against German imperialism during the First World War. Epic true story, something I never learned about when I was in school. I went to private English school and they taught us about how great colonialism was. And now doing research, I'm like, wait a minute, you had concentration camps, you killed 17 million people in the Congo, you killed hundreds of thousands of people in the Namib, what is now known as Namibia. So you started seeing all the horrors of imperialism. And so I learned all this over the last few years. And I said, it's important to tell the story of the people who rose up against imperialism, rose up against injustice, and who really just are the reason why we have our freedoms in Africa today. I did the story, so we've actually been reaching out to to answer your question, a lot of Nollywood stars who've been like, we didn't know this history existed too, but let's all work together. My whole thing is about Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africanism on the continent, but also Pan-Africanism, including people in the diaspora, which includes African-American people, but to show that we have a shared history. And so together we're stronger.
I'd say one of your biggest movies was Blood Diamonds.
Yes.
And could you tell us a little bit more about working with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Absolutely incredible. In fact, the first time I saw Leo, after a scene, he was like really emotional, crying. He can snap out of things like that. But he comes up to me, he's, I'm Leo. I was like, I almost fainted. I was like, oh my God, you're the great Leonardo DiCaprio. Jeez, a phenomenal guy, phenomenal actor, so gracious. Yeah, so that was an incredible experience. It was also heartbreaking because it's a movie about my people and what happened in Sierra Leone. We had that 10-year civil war. And so doing the research about it, talking to family members who were deeply affected physically, who had physical and emotional wounds as a result of the war, talking to them, I was like, oh, it made it that much more personal. And it was really difficult to snap out of. I worked on the film for a few weeks, but it took several months, I would say, to get out of that mindset of being this person who was responsible for turning children into child soldiers and committing all these atrocities, which are unspeakable. But it was a powerful movie. I'm glad the message was out there. People got to know that we had that unfortunate 10-year civil war. I got to know about blood diamonds and how to just not participate in the sale of blood diamonds. And it raised so much awareness. And it was an incredible experience.
Oh, okay. And I know you moved on to doing voice acting as well. As I mentioned before, Blood of Zeus. Could you tell us a little bit more about that experience? And do you have any more voice acting work coming up?
I can actually confirm Blood of Zeus season 2 is coming out pretty soon. So I can't tell exactly when, actually, because they didn't tell me when, probably because I talk too much. But Blood of Zeus season 2 is going to come out and it's going to be incredible. And we had such a blast shooting it. Season 1 was great. Season 2 takes it to the next level. It's incredible.
I'm a big fan of that show, so
awesome.
I'm really excited for season 2.
Thank you very much.
Just tying in just your history, but different forms of media of education you're trying to get to peers. How do you relate it to like your experience with BlerDCon and this environment of different backgrounds meshing together and then the different types of media and expression from the diaspora?
I love that you asked that question. Looking at the latest project I'm doing, The German King, Rudolf Douala Mangabell, who was raised in Germany, was all about building bridges, connecting people. He talked a lot about his métissage, his mixed cultural identity. And that's what I'm seeing in BlerDCon. You're seeing Black people, you're seeing white people, you're seeing gay people, you're seeing straight people who are historically marginalized, who have this common ground of just basically comics and telling art and expressing themselves in a different way. And it's such a beautiful thing to see and see this as this melting pot that I hope society can learn from and end up emulating.
So we got one last question for you. I know you mentioned Pan-Africanism, and I wanted to reflect that onto your experiences in Hollywood. What are some things you would like to see in terms of African roles in Hollywood?
I would love to see less stereotypical roles. And because too often, this is the reason why I became a writer and a director and producer. Bertolt Brecht actually says, art is not the mirror we hold up to society. It's a hammer we use to shape it. And so I want to use my artistry to shape society in different ways so that we can see Africans specifically as dignified, powerful people who are educated, people who are descended from kings and queens. And that's what I want to start seeing coming out of the continent.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. You can follow me at Adetokumbo. So at Adetokumboh. It's a mouthful, I know. At Adetokumbo. And on Instagram at German King Series. And go to thegermanking.com for more information about the German King. Thank you.